you can't legislate hate out of people, and you can't legislate speech. I'm sure there's a lot of women that could watch your show and be like, wow, that was hateful because they're pussies. No, I'm just kidding. But like,
No,
it's like,
what? Say for the people in the back. I know this is your jam. The idea of freedom, right? Like being tossed out and weaponized on both sides. I mean, I heard it so much last night. Like these people have the balls, literally the size of Texas, because they're holding up like freedom, freedom. I'm thinking these are the same people who have had a chokehold on speech, on, as you said, vaccine mandates, in bed with tech, big pharma, suing RFK right now to prevent him essentially from running. Like, that's freedom and democracy to you, but their whole thing is like women's body, women's choice, all this. Now, on the other side, you could say, well, the right, if you're pro-choice, they clamp down on that freedom. And like I said earlier, like it may be a little bit of, on the low, but those undertones of judgments, like live this way, be a moral, way, the correct way to live, right? So is that freedom on the right? Like if it goes against your way of living, it's not the correct or right way. So how do you see all of that? Like, which is it? Which is it? Like, is anybody even actually fighting for, quote, freedom here?
I want to start with this because this is, I wouldn't even say controversial, but people don't think about it this way, that like you want freedom and liberty from a corrupt government. And I think that America's good because you have these First Amendment, Second Amendment things that the government can't take from you. But freedom doesn't necessarily make a man great. It's usually discipline, right? Start with the Democrats, like they're total phonies. Like they don't believe in free speech. They definitely want to clamp down on censorship. That seems to be a huge part of their platform, yet they always pretend like it isn't. When it came to pharmaceutical criticism, they got so upset at that, which is weird because they used to say, take the money out of politics. And it's like, are they stupid? Big Pharma funds the televisions. Big Pharma is the number one lobbyist of both parties. Like they're controlling everything in this country. Yeah. So if you're against lobbyists, that's why they're pushing all this stuff. It's not just because it's good for you. They don't get that. And then the left with women's bodies and being able to choose, I think that narrative with abortion made more sense, or at least was more honest before the COVID pandemic, where any woman who was a nurse, a pilot, or anything, they were trying to force people to get vaccinated. So now a woman's body, it is not her right to choose. Only it's her right to choose to get an abortion, but not to say no to a vaccine. So they lost that talking point completely, where even if you were pro-life, you're like, well, I guess, I draw the line somewhere else. But like they lost the moral, or even just like any sort of honest high ground at all that they maybe even had then. And then on the right, I would say that at first when I heard that Roe versus Wade was overturned, I didn't really understand what it meant. I just heard all the backlash and, abortion, et cetera. But I believe that sent it back to the states. And I'm actually, I think that's a good idea. I mean, obviously, I think there's, people that want it, but let me give you an example. Like I live in California and, the state tax is really high for businesses. And if I really want to leave, I'll leave. Like I don't want to, but unfortunately I can't get everything I want here. And even if I go to Tennessee or Florida, like it's not, I wish Florida didn't have mosquitoes, but it does. So you can't always get everything you want, but I think it's a great idea to let states choose. I think that's a way bigger improvement. And there have been Republican states that actually voted for it. And I was surprised by that. But sending it back to the states is not as crazy as Democrats are making it seem. And with that being said, I think Republicans, they say a lot of things about like they don't like socialism, but then they do socialism. I think 2020 was all socialism. When it comes to free speech, I think Republicans are also weak on that. Trump, DeSantis, and Republicans passed anti-Semitism speech laws, essentially, which list out 12 or 13 things that they consider anti-Semitic. And they're not like arresting people in America because you can't do that, but it is kind of laying the groundwork for hate speech. And on that, I've had conversations with people for a long time where whether you want people to say that or not, or you think it's hateful, you can't legislate hate out of people, and you can't legislate speech and equate that to hate. Like it's only going to backfire, and it's absolutely not going to do anything. It's just going to basically give the government an in into now policing what is and isn't hateful. And as you know, like you seem pretty edgy and funny, like when you want to be, it's like I'm sure there's a lot of women that could watch your show and be like, wow, that was hateful because they're pussies. No, I'm just kidding. But like, it's like,
no,
it's like, what?
Say for the people in the back. Say it for the people on Twitter. No.
Some women are pussies. I can't say that because then the word pussy's in it. And then, like Trump tried to grab one time and I could get in trouble for that. So in general, it's just like everyone has different lines when it comes to humor, dark comedy. So it's, like the right, I think, lost me on that, where they say they're pro free speech, but, I don't know how much it is. Even with like you could be upset at certain comedians and stuff, but I've seen them be like, that's unacceptable. It's like, have you never been to a comedy show? Like I watched Tony Hinchcliffe joke about abortion, where like morally, I don't like, he's not my doctor or my pastor, but like what he said was funny because it was so fucked up. Like that's what fucked up humor is. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm taking this literally, it's my professor. It's like, it's Tony Hinchcliffe fucking around. Like, so you got to watch, both sides could be a little bit of hypocrites, but yeah, I think, I don't know if any side is really like liberty based. I think Ron Paul was liberty based and he never had any power. And now Thomas Massey's really liberty based and he also has no power. So, the mainstream Republican Party is, in my opinion, better than the left. The left is making a fool of themselves, but it's like, if it were 100% liberty based, it's like, one side gets like almost there, the other side is like nowhere to be found. So it's not a real, it's a lot of talking points and promises.
I love what you just said about speech. What I say on my show time and time again is they cherry pick, and it's like always a double standard on both sides. It's like either have free speech or fucking don't, and the anti-Semitism laws, I've been super vocal about this issue. I'm a Jew. I agree completely. And I remember saying at the time, like, this is dangerous, because then what happens? It's whack-a-mole dominoes. Oh, then this, then this, then this. And the comedy, same thing, Look what happened with Dave Chappelle. And I've interviewed so many iconic, like the guy who created Old School, Ray Romano. They all agree, like, this is absolutely insane. Though, again, this is 1984, but they don't want to say anything. Ray Romano said to me, if nobody crosses that boundary, if nobody pushes up against the limit, like, everyone will be me and that shit is boring, basically, right? But nobody out of Woketopia, Hollywood, nobody, God forbid, can say that. And I always say, like, if we can't have comedy, we are, like, absolutely fucked, because they're the one, like, group of people who should be saved to call out the uncomfortable things in our society and make fun of it. And that's where it's really, really not okay.